Good afternoon, everyone. What is shamanic medicine? Well, we are going to talk to Christine Breese, who's the founder of Gaia Sagrada in Ecuador. Dr. Christine is also founder of University of Metaphysical Science in California. Christine has walked the shamanic path for over 35 years, as well as studied and applied many other spiritual paths, combining them all to create her own unique brand of shamanism and spirituality. I am Amita from Nourish Talk, a global platform for natural and holistic therapies. I am super excited to introduce all of you to Dr. Christine Breese, who's joining us live from Ecuador. What an amazing, treat for all of us, Dr. Christine. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I am honored to be here. It's really beautiful what you're doing. So thank you for including me.
Absolutely. So let's just, many of us don't know about origins of shamanic medicine, what exactly is shamanic medicine. So maybe if you can just start from the basics, I think it would really help all of us.
Sure. Shamanic medicine is, well, there's a lot of different ways of shamanism, but the particular way of shamanism that I work with is with plant medicines. And the shamans that I work with ayahuasca and San Pedro. I am a shaman as well. I've done all the sun dances and the vision quests, and I was given the blessing to carry the medicine from the elders. And I like to work with San Pedro, and of course, mushrooms. And ooh, I wish there was a way to do some other of the medicines, but they're not quite legal yet. And it's too bad that there's anything that's illegal, because these are things that grow out of the earth. I personally think that anything that grows out of the earth should not be made illegal. But here in Ecuador, it's legal with the ayahuasca and the San Pedro. And the ayahuasca is a medicine that takes you really deep inward, which I feel like its purpose is more than anything to meet the master within you. And it shows you a chance to address all your traumas and the things that you're not at peace with. It shows you what you need to change. And the San Pedro, I don't feel like a retreat is complete without both of these medicines. The ayahuasca is the feminine, the San Pedro is the masculine medicine. The San Pedro shows you how everything is intertwined with this reality and gives you the power to make the changes that you need to make. So ayahuasca kind of shows you, but San Pedro, I call it the great reprogrammer. It gives you a chance to really reprogram your flawed programs. And you know how we all have programming from our childhood and programming about how we see the world and things like this. And it gives us a chance to really address that and change it. The medicines are taken in a liquid form. The shamans make the medicines in a big old pot, just like a witch's cauldron. And the leaf and the vine are in the ayahuasca. The San Pedro is only the cactus. And some shamans try to mix other things in. We don't believe that that's a good idea, because people can get sick or die from things that are not really supposed to be there. So we have a contract with all our shamans that they only have the leaf and the vine for the ayahuasca, only the cactus for the medicine, to keep everything really safe. No one has ever died from these medicines if they're pure. Very important.
So the cactus, any particular type of cactus that you have, or
It's San Pedro.
So
San
that's
Pedro. It's also called Huachuma.
okay.
Aguacoya.
Okay, all right. So, and what's the benefits of shamanic medicine? You talked about the introspection and the trauma a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it's a lot of people who come here to a retreat at Gaia Sagrada, they say it's like 20 years of psychotherapy in 2 weeks. It's basically you go really directly inward to where the problems are within yourself. And you have a chance to really look at those from a different perspective, from the perspective of a more a bigger picture perspective, shall we say, rather the eternal self rather than the struggling human perspective. And when you look at these from these perspectives, you can have a less emotionally charged experience with these programs and traumas and experiences that were in your past. You can have a less charged experience with that and be able to look at it in a more masterful way. And these medicines bypass all the mental body stuff. This is why it surpasses psychotherapy, because you become the one who finds what it is that you have to heal and finds the solutions to the healing, changes the perspectives, changes how you react to the past that you've been through. And so the benefits are really being able to get into a more masterful space, or shall we say, a more masterful perspective than you would be in your normal consciousness. It's not about having a psychedelic trip. Some people think of it that way. Bucket list, and I'm gonna check that one off. I'm gonna have a psychedelic trip and see all the colors and the visions and all this stuff. And there is that, but that's a very surface level of what these medicines are about. And in fact, a distraction. What's really important with these medicines is to get the aha moments. Aha, oh, now I know why I do this, or now I understand why I react in those situations this way. Now I understand. Those are the aha realizations that you're looking for with the medicines. And those happen after the visuals, more or less. Like sometimes people like, oh, there go the visuals, and oh no, oh, I wish I could take more and get more visuals. And we do give people more. We don't stop people from taking more if they want. But after they start going, the distraction is no longer there. And then comes all the realizations, then comes all the information about your life and what to change and how to change it. So the benefits are 20 years of psychotherapy in two
Yeah.
weeks.
So there's no counseling, right? And that is involved in 2 weeks.
There,
I
there
mean, what
is with,
happened?
say again?
So in 2 weeks, you said a 2-week retreat, right? So what is the composition of the two-week retreat? What are the program? I mean, what exactly one should expect if one say, okay, I'm going to go to Ecuador for 2-week retreat and do shamanic medicine and some other things. So what am I supposed to expect out of that?
What happens is first we do an orientation and we explain to everybody how to be in the retreat in a good way and how to be with the medicines in a good way, how to be in the maloka, what you call the ceremonial space,
Mm-hmm.
and how to work with the medicines. Then our second day, we take the first ayahuasca, and there is no counseling before that. What happens is we do have a sharing session where everybody talks about what it is they came to transform and what they hope to gain from the medicine. But the medicine, we let the medicine do the work. And on the first Sunday night, which is the first ceremony, they would do the ayahuasca, and there's lots of crying, there's lots of laughter, there's lots of moving of the heart, moving of the mind, moving of the energies, and a lot of cleansing too, because ayahuasca knows every Twinkie and hamburger you've ever eaten. you, you can't get away with that if you haven't been eating right. You're going to have a lot of vomiting, and well, not a lot, but you're going to vomit and have a number two. And we call that a double platinum. And the cleansing is really deep. And so there's that in the first one. Then the next day, we have a circle where people can ask questions. They can process what they need to process. They can share their experiences with everyone else. And if people need counseling, they can come to us, and we have people who will sit and talk with them about their experience if they're having a difficult time with something, or they're having we never leave anybody without the help that they need if the medicine's brought up a lot of stuff, which happens a lot. So we do a lot of impromptu counseling, spiritual counseling, as they go through the whole retreat, as they need it, if they need it. The
Yeah.
next ceremony is a San Pedro ceremony. And in that ceremony, there might be a little bit of counseling if they need it. But what they do is each person takes a turn into the fire, and they have a chance to express themselves and let go of what it is that they want to let go of, and can have a dialogue with the shaman if they choose to, and maybe ask the shaman to give some insight into what their situation is, if so. But it's not really, nobody's a trained psychologist, and it's more of a spiritual counseling nature if they want it. Sometimes people are very much in a celebratory mood, and they're okay, and they're letting go, and they know how to do that, especially if they've done a lot of spiritual work in their lives before this. For newbies, it can be really difficult. For those who have been on a spiritual path for a long time, or even just a short time, they have a process that's pretty easy to handle. Then comes the sweat lodge. And what the first two ceremonies don't take care of, what ayahuasca and San Pedro doesn't fix, the sweat lodge finishes. And in the sweat lodge, we give them both medicines. We give them San Pedro and ayahuasca. And the two together, the masculine and the feminine medicine together, mother and the father together, the grandmother and the grandmother together, there's a real balance and an exceptional experience with that that can't be duplicated in any other way that I know of. And then after that, people, we give them a little bit of a rest from the medicines. They take 2 days off from the medicines. They go for a day trip into the city, and or go to the ruins and see the ancient ruins, or they go hiking in the Cajas National Park, or whatever they want to do. They go to the hot springs. It's whatever people choose to do for their day trip. And then we do another ayahuasca and another San Pedro the next week, and that pretty much seals the healing. It's like the first week is all the taking out of the darkness within ourselves. And the second week, the last two ceremonies are like all putting all the light in and giving people a chance to really experience true ecstatic joy. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experience. So it's a life-changing experience to do 2 weeks with the medicines. It's absolutely transformational. And anybody who thinks they're just coming to check off a bucket list kind of item, they're in for a surprise.
So you talk about all of us need to take responsibilities for our actions, situations, in order to be, a truly functioning human being. So sometimes we don't have control on the situation that we are kind of put in, and then we realize that we need to. I mean, so that also would help by taking these medicines, that we at least come to terms with who we are, and from a spiritual cleansing point of view, it helps us cleanse who we are, and what has happened in the past is past, and try to move on, right? To be aware of who we are now in the present, and at least create a better future. So is that what the goal is with the 2 week retreat that you have, or how would you describe the goal of that? I mean, psychotherapy, I understand 20 years of psychotherapy, but after that, 2 weeks is good, but after I come back, how do I now exist without, I can't be flying every time to you to fix myself. You know what I mean? So
No, that's a very good question. First, I'm going to address the taking responsibility for everything we create. It's yes, that's true. We don't have control all the time. Sometimes those programs just rear their ugly heads, and here we are back in an old program, or back in an old experience that we've repeated and repeated and repeated. What I mean by taking responsibility is after the fact. Don't blame the other person. Don't blame the situation. Look at what programs are inside us and really address those, work on changing those programs, work on changing our habits. Our emotional and our mental habits need to change. And affirmations is a great way to work with that. getting a repeating alarm on your phone that reminds you every hour to feel worthy or feel loved, or to whatever it is that you want to change in the program, because most of our programs come from not feeling worthy or loved. That
Mhm.
really is the bottom line for most of our flawed programs. Then what you have to do is put into action what you are learning. The real work begins after the retreat, when you go home.
Yeah.
In the retreat, you're shown all the things that you need to change. You're shown how to change them. You're shown where they come from, what the source is, where the core wounds are. Core wounds are like the first wound that created the flawed thinking or the flawed emotions, emotional habits. And when you leave the retreat, usually you leave with a really ecstatic feeling, with a whole new perspective, new hope for your life. We get a lot of people who are like, okay, this is my last resort. I've tried everything. I've tried pharmaceuticals. I've tried talk therapy. I've tried ignoring it. I've tried self-help books and workshops. This is my last resort. And they go home and they have hope, and they have instructions from within on how to move through what it is that they're trying to change. So when you're home, it's important not to go down thinking, oh gosh, I had a great time and I had this great feeling. Now here I am in the depressed feeling again, or here I am in the feeling of lack of self-worth, or here I am in the feelings of anger and frustration that I've been trying to leave behind. This is the moment that the real ceremony work kicks in. This is the moment that the change happens. This is the moment when taking responsibility happens, where you're like, okay, this is no one's fault but my own. And you might think, well, it was unfair. I was a child and I got all these bad experiences, and I got this bad program. That was totally not fair. It really is, because first of all, no one said that life is going to be fair. When you came here, you chose a dysfunction to get in here. It's sort of like, no one's allowed onto Earth. No one's allowed into human reality unless you choose a dysfunction. And that people are saying, all right, which dysfunction are you going to take? This is a
I wish we could all
dysfunction.
choose something, right? I wish we all had a choice of choosing which dysfunction to take. We are all given this
We
dysfunction,
do.
you
We
know?
do. We
Yeah,
do. I'll take depression for 25. I'll take frustration for 35. We do. Our soul chooses.
yeah,
So if anybody did it to you, we did it to ourselves by choosing this particular dysfunction that we've decided to work on. And
yeah,
so if we take responsibility for making that choice in the first place as a soul, then we have won 95% of the battle, because we have taken responsibility for choosing it. We're no longer a victim. We are in charge of our reality. We are in charge of our healing. And the medicines help us get in charge of this healing, to take responsibility, to say, you know what, this is my stuff. This is not other people's stuff. Other people are just the vehicles for Spirit's teachings, the vehicles for life as the guru, because life is a ruthless teacher, and it doesn't take F, it doesn't take a D, it doesn't take a C for a grade. You got to get an A every time. Well, not every time, but before you get to graduate from that medicine, that lettuce, oh, say that 10 times. That lesson, before you get to graduate from that lesson, you got to get it right. And then every now and then you get tested, and this is where the medicines can come in and remind you how to handle this lesson that you have been working on, how to handle this program that has come up for you. And really taking responsibility is the easier path. It really is the easier path, because when we're blaming other people, when we feel like a victim, we are not in our power. So the medicines, the shamanic medicines, help you get into your power and take charge of your own healing, and not looking at, sometimes people look to the shaman like, oh, save me, or look to the medicines. If I take the medicine, okay, everything will be fixed. It's not like that. The medicines are just a tool on the spiritual path, a powerful tool, on the spiritual path, but you got to make use of that tool. The medicine will not just fix things. It'll show you what to fix and how to fix it, but then you got to do the work.
Yeah. Well, people, you're welcome to ask questions in the chat window. We will be taking questions very, very quick, in a few minutes. So what does it take to become a shaman?
That's a long road.
Yeah.
I've been on this road for 35 years.
Wow.
And yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm 55 right now. And I think the medicines keep me young. An interesting thing happened was when I went into menopause. It was a time when I started taking the medicine a lot because I had just opened Gaia Sagrada and I was in every ceremony and working with the people, and my menopause stopped and held off for another 3 years before it came, when I started taking the medicine a lot. So anyway, just a little side note there. To become a shaman, there are certain organizations that teach shamanism and test your stamina and your strength. You have to be a really strong person to be a shaman, and you have to be really compassionate because you have to be so delicate with people's hearts. You have to be so compassionate with people's process. You have to be so patient with people's process. So a person who is impatient will not cut it. There's a lot of people who managed to get the medicine and they did 3 ceremonies and think they're a shaman nowadays. But you better be careful who you take medicine with, because if it's not someone who's been on the path at least 10 years, then you are not working with someone who's been in a lot of ceremonies. And the only way to really learn is to be in a lot of ceremonies. I've been in thousands of ceremonies and watching what happens and how the shaman handles things and what can come up and how to deal with certain situations. So important to observe and see, because these are things you cannot learn from a book. Technically, to become a shaman would take 7 to 8 years. It's pretty much the same amount of time that it takes to be a doctor. And in that time, you do vision quests. You have 4 vision quests of 4 days, 7 days, 9 days, and 13 days that you would do, or shall I say nights, because really it's 14 days. It's like 5 days. You get brought down on the 5th day, and this is a time of fasting. You have no water, no food for 4 days, 5 days,
Wow.
4 days. And the next one is 7, next one is 9, next one is 13, and you pretty much bring yourself close to the doors of death is what the idea is. Because when you get really close to the division between the dimensions, then you can receive wisdom and insights and knowledge that it's not so easy to receive when you're just in a regular conscious state. People who do deep meditation are getting close if they have a samadhi experience, but these vision quests are to induce these kind of samadhi moments where you're super aware, super conscious. And then there are also the 4 sun dances. And the sun dances are where you dance all day, no food or water for the whole 4 days. And you make a blood sacrifice, which is just pretty much a pin prick in your arm, or sometimes they do it right here in the chest. And it's not like terrible. I mean, the movies have really dramatized sun dances and to be really horrible, and that's not the truth. They're really beautiful. You dance and you get into these really altered states by not eating and by dancing all day. You do sleep at night, and some traditions are more difficult than others, where you don't stop dancing, really. I mean, and I've heard of some where you even have to stand up all night. I personally wouldn't be able to do that. So, but there's that. And then it starts with keeping fire for another shaman, basically apprenticing with another shaman. I'm getting ready to open a shaman school because we have a lot of people asking for this. I'm going to give them the instruction, the written material, the songs, have them be in hundreds and hundreds of ceremonies as assistants and firekeepers, and even giving practice runs to each other with the ceremonies so that they know how to handle it, making the medicine, learning how to make the medicine. There's a lot to it. And then learning how to handle the people, because there's a lot more to it than just giving out the medicine and singing some songs. You've got to learn how to protect the space from dark spirits, because the dark spirits do come and they can create havoc if you don't have control of your ceremony or of the energies around your ceremony. And you have to learn how to take care of the people in a good way. You have to learn how to talk to their heart. You have to learn how to meet their heart. And it's not as glorified as some people think it is. Some people think, oh, the rock star is a shaman. But it's actually a lot of grunt work to be able to wipe the throw up off somebody's shirt and sing to them until sunrise so that till they're calm. It's not so easy to make sure that they can come out of the medicine in a balanced way. It's not so easy. And
Yeah.
some people may think it's easy, but it's not. This is trying to counsel your friend who's depressed or suicidal, take that and times it by about 1,000. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what you're working with the medicine, because the medicine intensifies and amplifies absolutely everything that is in the ceremony. It amplifies it.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you felt depressed before, the medicine is going to bring that up and amplify it so that you can clear it. It's sort of like almost like you could think of, okay, you have an emotional broken bone.
Yeah.
And the medicine sort of re-break that didn't heal right. And so the medicine sort of re-breaks that bone in order to make it heal right this time.
Yeah.
If somebody's in the medicine field, they would understand what I'm talking about how sometimes when something didn't heal right, you have to re-injure it in order to get it to heal right. So
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
I
I went off on a tangent there, but
no, no, we have quite a few questions. I just wanted to get a brief intro
okay.
from.
I'll keep it
And
shorter. Just
yeah, it's perfectly fine. It's okay. I think we want to understand. So one of the questions that's coming up is, how can medical doctors incorporate shamanism? We will be, and it's good afternoon. For someone from Richmond is saying hello. So you're welcome to you're welcome to put your question out there. We got your hello, but someone is asking, how can medical doctors incorporate shamanism? And I'm going to get to other questions after
Mhm.
this.
Well, this is a tricky question because shamanism is such a long road. I
Yeah.
would really suggest working with someone who is a shaman, who has experience working with the medicine, has experience facilitating people, because this kind of medicine, shamanic medicine, is so much different than Western medicine or even naturopathic medicine or holistic medicine. Um, Shamanic medicine is more addressing the emotions and the mental bodies more than the physical body.
Mhm.
And I would say that it would be important to, if a doctor was going to administer shamanic medicine, I would suggest going and working with a shaman for a while before you would do that so that you can see what comes up. Be in ceremonies, watch how ceremonies work, watch what happens, watch what you would think maybe you would do better, or whatever you think might be something you could contribute to that. Or if you thought that they did it well, learn. Because I've seen that a lot of the medical people are trying to come in and bring the medicine to the people in a more clinical format, or from a background that doesn't know these earth medicines, and it falls short. It does fall short of knowing how to handle what comes up, because people, they could end up being crying hysterically. They could end up screaming and thrashing, and a lot of times what happens is there's a lot of spirits that come in to, if you don't know how to handle the spirit, because some people have attachments. And a lot of times when there's a very dramatic process, it's because there's a spirit attachment of some sort. And if you don't know how to work with that, you should work with somebody who does know how to work with that, with medicines. I would suggest taking on a partner, taking on a shaman friend who to work with for a while before you give it yourself. I mean, some people might disagree with me with that, but because they're like, well, I've been trained in psychology, so it's not the same. It's just not the same. It's an earth medicine, an ancient earth medicine that has a whole process of its own. And you're
Yeah.
working more with the dimensions in the spiritual world than you are with the physical world. And that does create healing in the physical body. I've seen miraculous healings from cancer to a guy who was paralyzed and couldn't feel anything for 3 years. And now suddenly he could feel everything after the third ceremony. I mean, there are miraculous healings, but these healings come not from the physical level, they come from the emotional and mental levels being cleared.
Mm-hmm. So it's a very different, completely different. We have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a question from someone. He's saying, Dr. Breese, would I need to wean off my low dose of antidepressants in order to take Ayahuasca and San Pedro safely? So someone who's taking a low dose of antidepressants, would they need to wean off from that dose in order to take the shamanic medicines that you talked about? That's the question.
Oh yeah, you can actually get into a really dangerous zone if you're taking
I see.
antidepressants, and this, it's called serotonin syndrome, and
Okay.
that's actually very dangerous. What happens is it overloads the receptors.
Yeah.
Um, it can do one of two things if you're taking antidepressants and also taking this medicine. It can do one of two things. Either absolutely nothing happens and you just wasted your money and you have no experience at all with the medicines because the receptors are full and they can't receive the medicine. If a person's been taking antidepressants, we always say at least 2 weeks to a month minimum to be off the antidepressants, and even that isn't quite enough. And if somebody's been on them for a really long time, it can take up to 6 months to clear the receptors in the brain because the medicine and antidepressants use the same receptors in the brain. So same thing with marijuana. For instance, if a
Yeah.
person is very addicted to marijuana, their receptors are full, and so the medicine literally cannot get in. There's no way to receive it.
So you need to be off. That's what he was asking. He has to be completely off any
Absolutely
antidepressant,
off.
things, absolutely off, or give some time before they can even think of doing that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a lot of
Yeah.
people are afraid of that.
Yeah.
What I tell people is, they're like, well, if I go off the antidepressants, then I'm going to be all depressed and I'm going to feel suicidal again, and I can't do that. I always tell them, look, here's the chance of a lifetime to finish this once and for all and not need the antidepressants, because we really have seen people just have these miraculous 180 turnarounds in their perspective of life, and they don't go back on the antidepressants. They don't need them anymore because they've taken antidepressants are for people who are trying not to do their spiritual homework. They're trying not to address the problems. They're trying to, I'll just be happy anyway, even though I'm not going to fix the problem. It's like
Yeah.
putting a Band-Aid on a deep wound. And so I suggest, you know what, let's tear off that Band-Aid and let's get her done. So that's the way to talk with someone who, it's like, do you want to get this done or don't you? Do you want to be free of antidepressants or don't you? And then the spiritual work kicks in. And that's what really needs to happen for no need. Okay, I don't want to go on too long about that, but I just wanted to throw that in there about how to discuss this with a person who's on antidepressants and doesn't want to quit. You have to
Yeah.
ask them, do you really want to heal? And do you want to do this now? If not, wait and keep doing your antidepressants.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope that answered your question. Someone is asking, have you ever visited? Okay, so All right, so he's, okay, there's a follow-up comment. Sorry, the idea that those of us who take an antidepressant are not trying to do spiritual work is wrong. So, people who are trying
Okay,
to,
I actually agree with that. I apologize for that because
so
I
that's,
was on antidepressants and I was
yeah,
doing my spiritual homework when
yeah.
I
So that's
yeah.
why this person is here, because, we are trying to promote non-medical way of healing yourself. And that's why people are coming to our educational webinars, because they want to learn, right? So,
Yeah,
so
I
he's,
take it back.
yeah, yeah. So I think he's saying, please be kinder to us. So they're trying to find another way to how to heal themselves, and
Right, I
so
agree.
so right. So thank you so much for being with us. That's for sure. And so another, the same person is asking
And
this question.
just to go back to one thing, I
Yeah,
guess what I said about that was more about my experience with
yeah,
antidepressants.
yeah,
Was my experience was that I was trying to avoid
yeah.
having to deal with my stuff. So
And quite honestly, I think a lot of people are not aware that they can heal themselves naturally with efficacy also.
exactly.
And people,
Mhm.
all of us, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but all of us are trained to take a pill and we'll be okay, but we really don't know if the natural therapies would help us, would be effective if we start doing that. So I think you are on the right journey. So someone is asking, have you ever visited Egypt and experienced the sacred sites there? Have you?
I haven't, but it is so on my list of something to do. I am enchanted by Egypt. I just, oh, I mean, it's one of my favorite places in the world. So
Yeah,
someday I hope to. I just
yeah.
haven't had the money to do it, and now with the pandemic, who knows with all the traveling. I'm not taking a vaccine in order to travel. So hopefully, crossing fingers, all that can clear up so that we can
Okay.
travel again.
Sure, sure. Any more questions and comments about this? You're welcome to say that. We have some time. You're welcome to give your feedback. Any comments, any feedback? You're welcome to put it in the
Is
chat
a
room.
lot of your audience from Egypt?
No, 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 no. It's all. It's
Uh-huh.
actually. I don't know if this person is from Egypt. I don't know if you're from Egypt. You can probably tell us where you're from. No, we have U.S. I'm in San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco, so we have
Mm-hmm.
from U.S., Canada, UK. A lot of people UK and Asia. So that's our audience right now.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. One
Okay,
thing I
with
would
that.
say about Egypt is that it's where a lot of mystery schools started. I mean, some of the mystery teachings, and I just I've studied a lot of Egyptian wisdom and felt that it was right on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, this person is from LA, Los Angeles. I told you. I don't, and he completed a bachelor's University of Metaphysical Sciences. So
Oh,
he's
that's my school. Our a modern day mystery school.
okay.
I was actually just writing an article about how University of Metaphysical Sciences is a modern day mystery school. And nice to meet you because I love to meet our students and I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Let's see. One more question. Hello. Yes, he's saying hello to you. Okay. Anything else you would like to bring up? From the audience or from people who are in Zoom, you're welcome to ask more question if you want. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm just looking at. Okay, what gives you hope for the future of humanity? Wow, that is a loaded question. That's what he's asking. What gives you hope for the future of humanity?
I have total hope and faith in humanity, mostly because I got a peek at the future. I was in a coma for 3 days a long time ago, and it was like a 40-year journey on the other side where I learned a lot of what I know. And and of course still keep learning more, but I it was a moment of not hope in the world. And I when I was over there, I didn't want to come back. I was like, why would I want to go back to that sinking ship? It's going to hell in a handbasket. And why would I want to go there? I just experienced myself as all that is. How can I go back in that little bottle in a primitive species world where they still war with each other and kill each other? I mean, that's primitive. I was shown the beings showed me, don't worry, the world is headed in the right direction. It's going to be messy for a little while, and you're here to help in the messy part. But it has a utopian future. Humanity really does bring it together, and it's not really that far off now. In our lifetimes, it's going to be a process. It's going to take some time. It's going to get better in our lifetimes, I promise that. But it's, I'd say about 200 years from now, this is going to be a really heavenly world, really heavenly. And so our grandchildren will experience that. Our children will experience that. Us, we're the ones that roll up the shirt sleeves and we're getting it done. We're the ones paving the path. We're the ones who, we have to just accept that it's not the world we want right now, but it's on its way. And it's a death and a birth process at the same time. And death and birth are both very messy business. It's an old paradigm clinging to keep its structure and a new paradigm trying to come in. And paradigms are built to fight change. And it's actually natural and it's actually necessary and it's actually scientifically right. There's a book called Scientific Revolution by Thomas Kuhn, who I think that your audience probably would really find this book interesting, and talks about how paradigms work and why they fight change. The reason is because if there aren't paradigms and there would always be chaos. A paradigm was set up and then immediately fall apart and set up and immediately fall apart unless it had a self-preservation mechanism built into it. So the old paradigm is trying to preserve itself because that's what it's built to do. It's supposed to. And the new paradigm chips away, chips away, chips away, chips away, and then poof, the old paradigm's going to move, is going to leave really fast when critical mass is reached. And then the new paradigm is begun being built, because it's not like suddenly a whole new paradigm is here and that's it. We spend the next 1,000 years building the new paradigm. And so I have faith in humanity, because if you look at humanity, most people are good. Most people are really good. There's only a very small percentage that are not good people. And usually if they're not good people, it's because they were just really damaged as children. So there's compassion needed for these people, even world leaders who are not good. They were really harmed as children or programmed as children to do harm, which is harm to their mental and their emotional states, to who they are. If all children are innocent, but the dark wolf is fed in the shamanic traditions. There's the story about the white wolf and the black wolf, and which one are you going to feed? That's what decides whether you're a good or a bad person, which side of yourself, because we all have the shadow and the light within us. And it's up to us to decide which one gets the stage, so to speak. And so humanity right now is deciding which one gets the stage. And humanity, because of its innate goodness, it's choosing the light. It is choosing the light. For instance, in our election right now, everybody actually is choosing the light no matter what side they're voting for, because both sides think, okay, well, this candidate's going to bring us a better world. No, this candidate's going to bring us a better world. But the key word being bring us a better world. And it's like who you believe is going to bring you the better world. That's the only thing that's the fight right now, is okay, which one is going to do it? But we all want the same thing, which is a better world. And most of humanity wants that. And because the mass consciousness wants that, wants everybody to be happy, wants everybody to have an education, wants everybody to have food, wants everybody to have opportunities in life. We really do all want that for ourselves and each other. And because the mass consciousness wants that, the mass consciousness is going to get it, because the law of the universe is that what the mass consciousness wants, the mass consciousness gets. So we have to, there's no two ways about that. You can't bypass that law. So what we all have to do is be in this heavenly space, this heavenly frequency, this place in ourselves where we believe that we're capable of having this utopian world, that we believe, and not just hope, we have to believe that we are on our way to it. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I've seen it myself. For instance, just last night, I saw a video where a homeless guy was standing next to this car with an open window, and he looked in and he saw a laptop and a phone there that were worth a lot of money. And there was a camera. I guess this guy was doing a candid camera, and he sat on a curb next to the car, just waiting and waiting and waiting. He could have taken it, but he just sat there waiting. And then the guy who owned the car walked up and said, well, hey, we could take that laptop and that phone and go to the pawn shop right down there. And, we could probably get $1,000 of this. So I'll split it with you. You want to? $500 each? And the guy's like, no, 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 no. You can't do that. That's the wrong thing to do. That's somebody's life in that computer. That's somebody's family photos. That's somebody's business. That's somebody's videos of their kids. You can't do that. That's the wrong thing. And he's like, yeah, I haven't eaten and I don't have any money, but there's a right way to get money and there's a wrong way to get money. And that's the wrong way. Even though the guy tried to talk him into it, he kept trying to talk him into it. And then the guy said, well, why are you here? Why have you been waiting by this car? And he said, well, I'm waiting for the owner to come back so that so he doesn't lose his stuff. And then, I just want to let him know, you better take care of your stuff better and roll up your windows. And the other guy said, well, just so you know, I'm the owner of the car. And I'm going to give you $500 right now because I just can't believe how amazing you are. And this gives me so much hope in humanity. And so this is one of millions of these kind of stories about humanity. These don't get covered in the news. These don't get posted on the internet. They don't get put on Facebook. These stories don't get known, but they're everywhere. And I see them myself. I see these stories and hear about these stories and people sharing with me. And so this is why I have faith in humanity. Innately, humanity is good. And the part of humanity that's not good just needs healing. Really, that's it.
It's beautiful.
It's a long answer, but it's really important for everybody to have hope right now. Not hope, belief.
Yeah.
Because we have to be stronger than that which makes us afraid. We have to be stronger than all the evidence that everything is going to be bad. We have to be stronger than that and say, you know what? Our will as a mass consciousness, and the mass consciousness is made up of all these individuals, it's our will to have a good world. And anybody who stands in the way of that, well, either get on the boat or get off.
I think that's very, very good. With that, I think we'd like to wrap up this session. Any other final comments from anyone before I wrap up the session? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Christine, for being with us. I think a beautiful thought, absolutely inspiring and very beautifully said. Hope our viewers enjoyed our session. Please share our sessions with other people to help someone else. We really request you to do that. With that, thank you so much and have a great rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks.